show. And why? Because we show up every week. That's why, to showcase and share with our broader community success, intel, solutions in our broader community. Robert, could be homeowners with land, farms, commercial building owners. You know, we've been around for about 18 years in the Kitchener area and in the last few years in Hamilton. And our intention is to dominate 8 cities and help support our clients, not as an independent, but just, you know, they can trust us because we're here long-term, not short-term. But at the end of the day, when I think about, you know, we all live in Canada and we all have to have a roof over our head and we either own or we buy. It's an even better thing when we can, you know, look at different ways that we can also potentially get creative. We can support climate change and potentially, keep more in our pocket and just bring this kind of information to our client base, because sometimes they don't even know that there's opportunities out there or they could do something different. So just before we went live, Robert, we were starting a conversation on a few things, and a lot of times what we're seeing, clients that we're speaking to, there's not really people there that are helping guide them. It's this assumption that, well, they should already know how to do this. And when someone's, for example, I could give you a good, you know, we've got 2 professors. They've just moved into Canada. Both make $300,000. They do well, but they don't understand always how our system works, the options. And what do they want to do? They understand investing is a good option. They want to know where to start. So I don't assume they know. I just got to be able to give them that high level. Then we start talking options. Then we narrow down where they're comfortable, narrow it more down before we start taking them all over the place. Because there's no reason in taking somebody all over the place until we got a better idea on how much are they aware of, what do they know, and then we can start sharing info. And I am a massive believer in truly helping people. And that sometimes means, well, gee, I'm sitting on 10 acres of land, Robert, and I'm not too sure, I don't want to sell it to the commercial developer. Do I have an option? Or I am now, you know, running my business 40% of the time because of COVID, and I own 5 commercial buildings. And boy, those utility bills are costing me a lot. Do I have an option? Or another one of our clients who has, I think it's about 60 acres. He's got quite a few up north in Barrie. He's also a business owner. I can't share much more than that. And he would be someone, he doesn't necessarily want to just sell that land. He's looking for a solution. He's looking for, what can I do? And even on the facility that he's in the process of getting ready right now for the business that he's in, they take a lot of hydro based on the business that he's in. So these are the kind of clients that we build. And then up in Kitchener, we have a lot of existing clients. So Robert, thank you so much for being here. I kind of took a few minutes to open the floor. And for everybody that's watching, we have Robert Laporte with us, who is the founder of Neutopia. And Robert, I'm going to stop and I'm going to just, if you want to maybe share a couple of words about what your company does.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you again. So I guess to summarize what I'm doing, 25 years ago or so, I was training Canadian security intelligence officials, healthcare officials, military, police, first responders on airborne virus transmission in the case of a bioterrorism attack. I was doing it in Montreal. I ended up getting recruited by CBC to do a TV documentary about it. It aired across Canada. And that was, 20 years ago. And so what am I doing today? Well, I'm doing that again, but I've merged it in with my development company, which is Neutopia ecoSOULTIONS Inc. It was founded in 2008, and it was founded to help community leaders to know how they should immediately start planning. So that was back in 2008, how they should immediately start planning for things like Wi-Fi, which we talked about off air a little bit. We're really active in off-grid Wi-Fi systems, but also it's the new world. The new currency is all data. So it's getting involved in the data, but it's off-grid living or half off-grid or hybrid, microgrid, nanogrid, picogrid. So my company is the first one in North America to develop the smart community and demonstration facility for community leaders that was built up in near Owen Sound last summer. It took us 2 months to do it. And the whole plan behind that was to beat Google, because we had a foreign company coming into Canada to do what we already know how to do. And they didn't even propose anything innovative in their blueprint. So we're light years ahead of them. When I was in South Korea, when I was in Copenhagen, we could really see the differences between North America and why Canada and the United States rank 57th out of 62 countries when it comes to sustainability, energy efficiency, waste management. It's just unbelievable. So what I started Neutopia for was to educate. It was a consulting company. And because education facilitates decision making, you cannot make decisions based on a product. You have to understand what your problems are, understand the plethora of solutions that are out there before you can make an educated decision on what kind of solution you need in your community. Now, it's not just for community leaders, it's for individual landowners now. So we do private businesses, private landowners. It could be for community. It could be with First Nations communities as well. And the main thing people need to understand is all of their existing energy, water, and waste management costs, if you live in Ontario, all of them could be cut in half. Even your data costs, your Wi-Fi costs, everything 50%. Why? Because there's a monopoly in the energy, water, waste management sectors, and they're ripping everyone off, horribly ripping people off. They're stealing from us. They're stealing from the seniors that live in the long-term care homes. They're stealing from the children, the students at the dormitories. They're stealing from people that live in high-rise condos, neighborhoods, you name it. And so we're doing it. We just come to the clients. We'd say, hey, we can cut your bill in half. We developed our own software. We go in with monitoring systems, and we're able to enter the data that we collect on someone's property on their bills, and then run it in through our system and give them a guarantee. The guarantee is always, we say 20 to 50% savings. It depends on how often they're using energy, for example. But away from energy, we're being recruited now to do the full home design. So it's starting from scratch. We look on their property, let's build it over there. And we're going to build off-grid homes. So we just sold another 3. I think the last time we were doing this this FaceTime Zoom meeting, I was at one of the sites. So we're building 3. Everything's done off-grid, and we scale up the size of the off-grid systems. And it's not just about putting in things like solar panels. If that was that easy, everyone would be doing it. It's a combination of solutions, but it's also, how do you put up the wall? How does one building live next to another building? Because if you have one building alone, you don't put at all the same technology as if you have 2 beside each other, or 3. 3 completely different technology than if you only have 2. And people need to understand why. How do you design it? When I give lectures at like Humber College, sustainable design classes, engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, the professors are amazed at what we're saying to their classes. They come and join Neutopia after. They become advisors in the Neutopia network. They come for training. But the students are so excited because when they graduate, they get to come and work with us. And we have students that are amazed. They say we're light years ahead of what Canada's leading educational institutions are teaching their classes. And that made me investigate, what are they learning? And I realized that there's certain companies, just like I was involved in biotech at university, if a certain company finances that department, they're involved in the curriculum. And they're teaching students now about specific technologies that we consider obsolete. And some of those technologies are on the top 10 items for rebates in Ontario for saving on energy or what have you.
And they're obsolete.
We wouldn't even go near them. We would tell people to stay away. And I don't want to get into the legal issues behind it, but I went undercover for training with one of the leading hydro companies. I pretended I was just going because I wanted to administer the rebate program.
Yeah.
Reality is, I wanted to know, why are they recommending these obsolete technologies? That's when I realized these people have never even left the borders of Canada. They don't even know why we rank 57th place out of 62 countries. They're so far behind the curve. They still focus on things like retrofitting for what they call higher efficiency. Higher efficiency is not, that's a made up term. You don't need a new equipment that's higher efficient than another one. They can completely not even use that equipment. We have industrial clients, millions of dollars a year in energy bills. We can connect into their existing setups and cut their bills in half without them even retrofitting anything. They don't need to change the equipment. Leave it there. It costs more money to replace it. So let me stop rambling on and
no, you know how much
words introduce what we're doing.
The same awareness level that I experienced back in 2011 and 2010, 2011 to 2012. I did a 2.5-year project for a hybrid solution. It would have been a vertical wind turbine access at the time because there was such a big push, and the governments were my clients for a lot of years. I sold into them. And when that opportunity presented itself, there was the movement around green energy because we had at the time McGuinty in office, and there was this big movement around, green energy. I remember the whole notion of it. So here's me also educating myself, and I have a cousin of mine who's he's got a company called KPM Planning, and they do a lot of work with the province, the federals. He's been on his own for a few years now, and he was also sharing the same thing. Michelle, he says a lot of reasons why everything is built around the grid and we have all this bottlenecking is because it's a bit of an archaic hydro line. But he said, are there solutions? He was in the early phase, but he says until we can build a community off the grid, that's kind of why you see it. But it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And then it was very coincidental that, you fast forward to 9 years later, and when we met, and I think we met through another individual that he wanted to introduce me to you, kind of based on what we were doing. But when I learned about more of what you were aware of, did it ever bring back some interesting stories? Mm-hmm. But to simplify this, and for everybody that's watching, and more will. And then I have a question for you. But what I want to just quickly say is, we have so much land in Canada. We have so much beauty, but everything is kind of plugged in this grid. When we now have the ability to build off the grid, or we may not even start completely off, but we're moving in that direction, or never mind, we're on it, but how can we cut down on all of the essential bill, like the financials, because we now have another solution that we can go to, even if we set aside the reason they want to do corruption. I think the average person will want to say, I want to know more about that. How do I do that? Where do I go about it? And for all others that are watching as well, you guys own businesses, you have commercial buildings, or we're familiar with people that have commercial buildings. You look at how much it costs. So Robert, there's somebody actually I do have to, and the more I think about it, I need to get you introduced to certain people, but I have a gentleman who 11 FX Auto, the auto body collisions, if you will. So they own some buildings, and they have about 11 other partners, and the amount they put out in hydro and the amount is high. So there's another, and they're not even aware. They just this is what we got to pay. Not even aware there's alternative options out there.
Yeah, and a lot of times the bills, they have staff expenditures and they have inventory expenditures, but utilities could be a small ticket item for them. A lot of companies, it's small, they don't care. But there's another, I guess, division of businesses out there where the utilities is more than half of their cost of running their company. Yes. And their own salary is sacrificed when those utility bills go up. So it means their quality of life goes down. And so I'm learning more, I think, with each meeting with you to understand who your audience is, because it was always a question of understanding how can my company, how can Neutopia do something with you? How could your company help Neutopia? So I guess in a way, that if the audience is landowners, people with property, farms, manufacturing plants, or homes, and they're looking at a way to save or make money, then we can find out. They don't know what their options are until they see what Neutopia is doing. When they see what my company is doing, because when I started Neutopia in 2008, it was pictures of what other people are doing. And I was saying, I can do this because I spent almost 2 years setting up the International Solutions Network. So Neutopia is hundreds of companies, hundreds of manufacturing companies. I've traveled 500,000 kilometers around the world. I have an amazing PowerPoint presentation. It's our corporate presentation. And we show them, it's pictures of me with a machete in the mountains of Oaxaca, Mexico. It's pictures of me in Japan or Copenhagen and in Seoul, but meeting community leaders, government officials, economic development officers. I traveled, of course, coast to coast Canada and the US, but that's when I started realizing our problems. We recommend all these top 10 companies. They're not even in the top 10 in the world. They're not even in the top probably 100 in the world. Why are they even here? It's because someone's grandfather or great-grandfather started a distribution company here. So it's more like the Canadian or American head office of this other foreign company. And then there's a lot of offshoots that come up over the years, different manufacturing plants to compete with it. But in many cases, that technology is not even used. It's not even needed anymore on the planet because there's a whole other technology that replaces it. And that could be talking about light bulbs. Like, get rid of the LED light bulbs that everyone's selling here. Why are they selling? Who allowed LED lights to come into Canada? And why are they even here? People need to ask those questions. Why did we switch to LED? What is the benefit? And is there something even better? Yeah. Why are we using Wi-Fi? Why do people invest in Wi-Fi? And, you know, we're installing 5G without 5G headaches. We do that. I do that. I'm doing it. I did it yesterday. We do it. I'm working on reports. People don't know
a burning question. I have to ask a burning question.
Yeah.
So if you had, well, let me ask you this. How many, when it comes to future-based developers, okay, future-based thinking, future-based demand and need, have you had exploratory conversations with developers at this point in time in terms of potentially building a community that would be it may be community off the grid, it may be community partly on, but that have the build, if you will, factoring in some of the things that you are sharing, so that it's retrofitted to be green, clean, if you will?
Yeah, so there's two answers to that. Number one, simple answer, yes. And I am working on something right now, not in Canada, but I am working on something now. And when it comes to Canada, corruption.
That's where you are.
Every single project, 100% of every project I worked on where there was a mayor and councillor involved, an economic development office, all of them corrupt, all of them. I wish RCMP could get involved, and I wish it was a crime to even try to get someone like me, as you know, because my company being 12 years old now, but when I started out, I didn't accept any of these kickback offers or bribes and things like that. And it's not a crime until you accept it, which is a shame.
Well, of course.
When I went to RCMP, so if anyone wanted to do something in Canada, first question is why? Why are you coming to us? Why don't you do it yourself? What do you need us for? And what can we do for you that you don't already know how to do? So let's sit with the lawyers and the judge and sign the legal documents together. The other thing is, where do you want to do it and why? Because land is free. You don't need, like, anyone. I'm sure you've got all kinds of people in your network that have land that we could just go build there. And so let's just do it. What is the reason that they're not doing it? Who wants to do it?
That brings me to the next burning question. Mm-hmm. So if we have clients and they've got land, so we might have one that has 50 acres, another one's got 5 acres, another one over here has got 10, another one's got 100, another one's got 200 acres. So in those scenarios, and there was the interest, if you will, and this is just, there's the interest, they want to develop. They want to actually build a community on that. Can that be done off the grid?
I have to talk to them. Where's the land located? And let's do it.
Let's talk. All right. So you bring up a really good question, is that why are they not? I think, Robert, they are, I don't want to say brainwashed. We don't know what we don't know, but a lot of times people just keep going along until somebody comes out and says there are other options. So it's kind of like the compound effect. We kind of got to get to a certain point, and then there's the options there.
A lot of people don't know how to develop, right? They don't know what the first step is. And then, so I just had a conversation today with TD Bank as one of the groups that's invest in our projects. And so I just had an important call with them that they didn't understand part of the process on one of these projects. And it's because each project can have 10 or 20 different micro projects inside of it. And we were having a discussion about milestone payments, and we do sometimes 60, 30, 10 as an example. And they didn't know why. Why are we not just getting all the money up front? Well, that saves our clients from having to make interest payments or financing payments on money that they haven't even borrowed yet. You don't need to do everything all at once. We do it all in steps. But it's important that even a group like TD, the bank manager didn't have experience with this before. They're new getting into the green development sector. Every bank in Canada is new. But we've got banks, we've got private lenders, we've got equity, long-term debt financing, bridge financing, you name it. Even specific investors on the equipment side, somebody who only wants to do solar or wind or geothermal or air thermal or walls, insulation, lighting systems, heating, cooling systems. There's groups that are specific in one particular area. There's not one group that just does everything, but we do everything because we have our own investment network. that it's comprised, there's hundreds of investors and investment teams in our network. We get one project. So if I meet with one of the landowners or an investor on your side, someone who's interested in doing something, maybe they don't even own land yet, they're just contemplating purchasing land.
True.
Then
We have that as well. So you asked the question
we give
earlier.
them ideas.
We have, we're full service. So,
Mhm.
and we're in growth mode. So we've got a strong footprint in Kitchener, and we've got a footprint in Hamilton and Burlington that's growing. And that's expanding. And we've now, and as that kind of goes, we've got presence in like a little bit in another region, if you will, but it's kind of full service. And I would sort of not an independent realtor running around trying to do everything. I'm really not in support of that model. It's okay, but I came from a background where it was corporate, it was enterprise business. It's groups of people. It's not just one. And even and when we're doing on the full service side, you got to have focus. You have to, there's got to kind of be the real clear understanding. When we're out there on farms versus commercial versus residential versus condo, they're different markets. So we at this point, we don't have as of yet, but there will be in process. Okay, we'll have client with residential building. And I've, like yourself, Robert, I'm all about making sure people, it's all about solutions. It's keeping them up to date. They have a bricks and mortar unit that can be retrofitted as time unfolds with green solutions.
Green and pandemic safety. So my former life now has been brought to the forefront because I won't get into all the details on the genetics behind the virus, but we had the genome. We already had it back in January. We're able to analyze the sequence, the proteins that it makes, how it infects people. So this is like an airborne version of AIDS, an accelerated form of AIDS. It infects the organs. The government is still pretending schools are going to open. They're not going to open. They just have to weed people along, like or give them something to look forward to. Yeah. But to be honest, the building structure, so there's PPE, and maybe your audience is hearing this for the first time, BPE and CPE. So I was on 640 AM radio again yesterday talking about it and talking about our development projects, but building protective equipment and community protective equipment. So schools, hospitals, long-term care, police stations, fire stations, they don't have this equipment. They don't have it installed. They don't have their own personal protective equipment. That's why half of our infections are healthcare workers. A lot of people aren't going to be happy to hear that in the news, because we also don't want our teachers to be that, and they will if they open those schools. So we don't want them to be like the nurses and doctors. Half of our infections are them. So the buildings that we are creating from scratch are all like hospital, they're better than hospital isolation rooms. They're the safest place to be in the pandemic. And how much more does it cost? Peanuts. People used to ask me in 2008, 9, 10, I was doing a lot more public lectures. It's so much more expensive to build a green home. Why would anyone want to do that? And I thought, well, who are you talking to make it green? It's not much more expensive to make it green.
Thank you immensely, because we have clients. So this goes back, I remember about 3 years ago, a dear client of mine, and he actually was the manufacturer for that vertical wind turbine access project we did a few years prior. So he had retrofitted a home in Burlington. He retrofitted it. He took it down to the studs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then brought it all up. I won't remember all, but green, I think his utility bill was about $40 a month. Like he literally, and then he had another partner, and I kept thinking, do you guys understand what you have here? Like, do you know, people, especially when you think about generations, the millennial generation, the generation behind that, they consciously are kind of aware, if you will. So would they pay? Yes, they would. However, different kind of path, if you will. So what you just said, it so resonates, Robert, because I do believe honestly, yeah, people are ready for this. I have a different question, because you just mentioned something that just kind of perked my mind, and that is, you've got, you said BPE and like the material, the construction, the protecting, and so on. So if there's, let's say, there's a company that exists and they sell to the Home Depots, the manufacturers, like the products and that, is there a market from a construction standpoint, Robert, with what you're just sharing? Like, I guess what I'm kind of trying to say is, where we know that we kind of know the audience has demand, like the interest is there. For just the industry alone, the construction industry, because the construction industry, they don't have this understanding of how do you build a foolproof, how do you.
It's not their job. So I can answer the question. I know you're trying to formulate the
Yeah,
questions.
I'm having a little bit of a challenge getting to that specific
No, but
because
at the end of the day time too. But let me explain that the construction companies don't care. If you go to Humber Bay Shores, where I live, and they're building all these skyscrapers, dirt cheap, they don't care. There's a development company that builds cheap to sell fast. There's a demand in that area. You can hear the dog barking 5 doors down the hallway, or the baby crying. And I know it because I've got a 1-year-old. And if I'm at the elevator, 8 doors down, you can hear the baby crying through the walls. It's disgusting area. Construction companies don't give a damn. They're not getting paid for that. That's not them. So it's up to the developer, companies like me that are building these homes, to find the clients who want this. It doesn't have to be hurricane proof if we're building it here, if you want it to be. But in the old days, do you want it to be pandemic proof? Do you know that our flagship project that we had, the mayor and city councilors, 100 people invited, was last June of 2019. Canada's first pandemic safety zone, June of 2019. So we did it before the pandemic, and now it's the safest place to be in Canada. Food, electricity, clean water, everything is there. They even have a garbage compactor off grid, you know? But it's amazing to see that this is possible. We knew it. I married the different, I guess because I'm a Gemini, the different personalities I had, the different ventures I had.
yeah, relate to that one. Yep.
So we did it. But how much more expensive was it? Well, it just so happens that it's not a lot more expensive. And when I say not a lot more, I mean like not even 10% more expensive to do it this way. So if somebody wants to, now the other important thing is landowners, the main thing that I would recommend anyone with land, put 3 vacation homes on it. Do it now. Sign up now. We're getting busy, but sign up. We will put 3 homes on your property, have them off grid, include extra technology to get your existing home or business off grid. Do you have a business itself? We can utilize the roof. Do you know that your energy bills and everything, if you live in Canada, you don't even have to build the equipment on your property. You can build it 200 kilometers away. So we're a company that understands this. There is a slide in one of our presentations. It's got about 250 boxes on it with arrows, and every stage from initial meeting, concept, right through to fruition connection. But there's all these different steps along the way. And a lot of people don't even understand it. So an example of a project right now, we have equipment that is being shipped from the States. We have equipment that's being shipped from Japan. We have the banks that are still asking, why are we making the payments in this format? We have Enbridge involved and Enbridge is doing part of the environmental permitting for us. So it's costing us $0. Enbridge is doing it. The hydro companies are involved. They put bidirectional meters on the property. Why? Because we're net positive. We're actually making more energy on the property than the property can consume, and the excess goes back to the grid.
Which is exactly 9 years ago. Same
No
concept,
government feed-in tariff program.
Yeah.
You don't need those programs. Those programs were politicians pulling strings to create their own companies, so their own companies or their friends' companies could get contracts to build plants, gas plants, wind farms and stuff. We don't need that. Your landowners don't need that. We do private deals. And that's what people need to understand. So Neutopia created its own program. We have our own home program, our own energy savings, our own water program, waste management. You don't need to, and LEED certification and all that doesn't come anywhere near us. We go to a LEED platinum certified building and cut the energy bill in half in like 1 hour of doing our assessment. We'll know what needs to be done. Why? Because we've already done thousands of properties. Our network, the Neutopia network, is massive. Our website's up, but I'd be happy, if Michelle, if you want to have any of your friends or the people that participate in the Zoom meetings here or Facebook, reach out to us and we can answer questions. We've got an amazing corporate presentation. We've got a lot of confidential stuff, but just like this project in Jamaica we're brought in now, it's a 500-acre property to build this, a community. Guess what? There is none that exists anywhere in the Caribbean yet. There is 0 pandemic safety vacation spots. Ours is the first.
And Robert, just so you know, and so I do have a client of mine, and they are interested, and they're actually, and it's just getting you guys connected. It just so happens that I'm going to be spending a bit of time connected with them next week. So there's not another week going by without you guys getting connected. That's an absolute. I wish I could, if I could just find a way to get myself cut into 5 people, I'll make a lot more happen in a shorter amount of time. You know the drill, if you
I'm
will.
in a car right now, and I have baby duty coming up, and I didn't go up from my meeting yet. So,
and then the other is, I got to get you circled back with another lady of mine, but we've already been in discussions. We've got the newer one of the 100, and I have the other person who is, I think they're very interested, kind of in that. I want to. What I really would love to do is to be able to kind of coordinate and align and do it over kind of a 3-week period where I'm drawing the right community in to do this type of a session. Because at the end of the day, Robert, I've got too many, it's kind of, we have that linear brain. There's only so many things you can remember, but yet I know my network and I know where we are and the things that we're focused on. And we're like, didn't realize COVID was going to happen, the things that we're doing. And I agree with you. Corruption, it does exist. So, but we're not going to stop putting it out there for consumers to potentially take a look at and say, you know what, maybe I can do this. Maybe I will. Because I do believe there's from a development standpoint, and as this kind of starts to take off, from a development standpoint, currently, yes, there's a lot of developers out there, I would agree, that's all about the mighty buck and they don't give a toot and a toot. That's fine. That want to be that way. But that doesn't speak for everyone. And there are visionaries that think a bit more forward and understand that we really can do this. And whether it starts off with just a few and then a scale from there, because consumers, I do honestly believe they're ready for this. They're looking for these types. If you were to advertise and put this in front, and there's the option.
I kind of felt funny talking about it on the radio yesterday. I was angry at myself afterwards because there's no competition doing what we're doing. Yes, you can find companies that want to do off-grid homes or have these claims, but there's no one that has the technologies, because my company has the exclusive rights to some of the technologies coming into North America. So they can have other things that they're doing. Absolutely. There's thousands of companies that do green development and all this. No one can do the eco park model that we have because we're the only ones with the actual technology. And some of the other core components we manufacture. We have manufacturing, it's our label, it's our system. There's no competitors. But I was bragging a little bit yesterday and called that I don't know, maybe I'm young and stupid still, but we had our first $1 million day 2 months ago. And so my company is 12 years old, but to make $1 million in one day was a huge step for me, for my family, both my parents are still alive. To see this happening, it is absolutely beautiful. And I will correct myself so your listeners don't think I'm exaggerating. My wife makes me remind people that's not $1 million profit, right? But we have a very good profit margin. I was going to say very large profit margin. We do make a great profit, but on $1 million in business in one day, with the small size that we are right now, the vision of, hey, can we do 100 million in one day? Yeah, we had 384 volunteers register to become ambassadors of our company and start calling and going door to door to spread the news. 384 volunteers register. So I know that 1 million a day right now is happening, but can we hit 100 million a day? So there's people out there like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and I've read a lot of books in my life and philosophy books and books to better yourself and self-empowerment. And I kind of think that everything's coming together now. And I like to surround myself with people like you who are go-getters. There's a lot of talkers out there.
Oh, lots of people that, at the end of the day, they really understand how you're made up. Like it's what drives you. And I'll stop there. We've had other conversations about this.
Yeah. And then when you get groups like Royal Bank or CIBC and BMO and TD that are calling and begging to do business with us, it gives you another sense of, hey, we are on the right track here, but we have to be. And then I just told you something kind of confidentially. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say it on the air here, but there's a huge telecom company. They're, I would say, one of the top 5. And so we may be doing something with them now but I didn't even know telecom had a problem in that area. And we're amazed at how we're able to merge. So just so your viewers can, I guess, hear it too, we've done 2 neighborhood telecom projects. We stole the business from their existing telecom company, and now we've expanded the Wi-Fi, and they have no problems, and it's just, and lowered the cost. But I didn't know how easy it was. So now I see those companies have been overcharging for services and hardware, technology, upgrading lines, just like the hydro companies do. And they're putting in things that are obsolete and unnecessary, just like our hydro companies do. But in defense of our hydro companies, it's their profit margin to put in a system that can break easily so that they can be paid to fix it. That's
And it's
why
not
we
that
build
the
the way
windmills
we
were
do.
put up 18 years to maintain, they'll never cover the cost. They were more to just employ people to fix them. It's a
Yeah,
common decision. Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah. Makes sense. It makes sense. There is, so Robert, I think that there were, and just kind of from an organizing and orchestrating, but um, when I pause, I'm literally kind of trying to file my brain here on, all right, these three things have to happen, have to happen, happen. One quick thing you just said, and just kind of for the community is you're 1,000% correct in terms of belief and what you put into your vortex, because things do come circle back. They do come back. The more that we believe, we can't control. I'm a huge component of, when it comes to customers and clients or whatever, there's no controlling. You can just show up and do what you're supposed to be doing and keep, like you've got keep going forward, and eventually before you realize it, things do start to come together. You just don't ever give up, and you keep adjusting along the way, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
I've got the lead part in the story of my life. I might as well be the best that I can be, right? So there, dream big.
Yeah.
Aim for the stars, because at least you'll hit the moon. What is that? I don't even know the proper wording of that saying.
Well, I'm aiming for the galaxies so I can hit.
You want to make it out there.
So that's
every dream I had when I started my business. Now I'm the one in all the pictures. When I started off doing these presentations to mayors and councilors and economic offices saying this is how you should be building your community, I'm doing it now, but I'm doing it for private landowners, and I love it. I couldn't be happier.
It's just, and it puts me in mind for those that are kind of watching. And I think back to the time and the effort of why I jumped into the green energy solution years ago and why I got really compassionate about it. And then my thinking all along over the years of real estate, on and off, on and off. And when I realized you can run it like a business is when I decided to get into it. And I knew that I'm more of that builder piece, if you will. I understand program management. I understand culture and all those. So that whole notion back 9 years ago, I knew, in my personal opinion, it didn't die. It just had to go on the shelf. But the concept and what you can do, communities off the grid, demand, where we are now, we already know kind of, we only got so many years left before we really get accelerated here. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to see. You're going to see it on your end. People need to be educated. People want, and there's the old school and then there's the new school. And I'm all about the new school thinking.
I was going to add, Michelle, some of the clients that you've introduced me to and the conversations we have, even a phone call or conversation like that would be fantastic for your viewers to actually, I guess, grasp the plethora of ideas that we have, because I could look at one property and come up with 10 or 20 different ideas and look at another property and completely different ideas. But it's also changing the way that these people live their lives. So we have had dreams 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that we're living those dreams now, making them come true. And it's putting that into that vortex, as you said, and it will come around. But some of the landowners that you've introduced me to, they're saying we don't want to be hands-on and we don't want to do this. But at the end of the conversation, they're realizing, wait a minute, that would be a dream to be able to be involved in that now. And so there's ways that we custom do everything. Every project is there's no cookie cutter. You don't go to Home Depot and buy a piece of equipment. We're actually teaching people why that's wrong. You don't go to the hardware store and buy this and install it. That's someone else's box of their design. Even something as simple as an air conditioner. Never go down to the hardware store and buy an air conditioner. Why? You need to figure out, what do you need? What do you want? And then get it done. But people don't realize, oh, that's the easiest thing to do. Or I'll get financing from some company that's going to charge me 40 grand for my.
That's interesting you say that, because it's kind of like what I just hear them. And you've got to sort of assess the demand that you need first on the footprint and how much usage are you going to use in that before you're just going to go run. And it's very similar to real estate, where people will kind of come and, well, you know what? Every home's different. Every person's needs different. And I need to understand where their readiness is, where their financial is. Like there's all this stuff that we kind of have to figure out. And then, but a lot of it's not typically always been, or it's been assumed that the individuals just do that. And sometimes the individuals don't even know the options. So in this last little while, we've been able to successfully help get across, one that kind of went in 1.6 million, move across the table, because what they need, it's still solution. It's solution oriented. We need to understand this, so that if at the end of the day, we may have some people where they've got all of that, but they may not have enough on the down payment. How can they get that? Because if the market's scaling up, how do they get their foot in the market? So we look at it like a solution. We don't look at it like, well, it comes back to us, when you've got, the 25% or 20%, or it's and whatever size of the home they're trying to get into, it's still a solution.
Yeah. I'm thinking about money now by saying that, people coming up with percentages and stuff of something they need to acquire. So if you're looking at real estate acquisition, but you can package stuff. And that's something that we brought to the attention of some of these investors is you can package things. And then if you're doing, so we had a client that needed like 200,000 and we lent them over $1 million. And it's like, but we gave them a lot more. They were able to put an expansion on their house. You went out and bought 2 new snowmobiles. They bought a boat. But they didn't need all that. They didn't even think of it before. They're doing it now. And now you have pandemic, and July 1st, all the lending criteria changed with the banks now,
Yes.
but not with us, not with us. And that was actually one of the top 5 banks that explained it to us. They had refused someone's request for a loan to build green homes on their property, and they were refused to build these vacation homes. And then after seeing our presentation, and I was approved for my clients, they want to introduce us to their clients that were refused.
Wow.
And so I said, I'm all ears. It's been over a month. And she said, I don't know if I'm allowed to share information with you. And I think I have to follow up with them again and see.
I'm going to do this suggestion. I'm kind of looking and kind of being in 2 places. I'm literally in that wonderful scenario where the battery's here. We don't have the charger. And I just made sure that based on the, I think we probably got about 5 minutes left. So I just wanted to kind of, just in case, worst case scenario, so we all cut off. The upside is, and I just want to do 3 quick things. One, for everybody that's watching, I want you guys you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm Michelle Carty. You see me pretty frequently, or you can reach out to Robert Laporte. You may or may not be, you might have just chimed in. We've got a number of people that have just chimed in on the feed live. Robert is the founder, co-founder of an organization called Neutopia. And if you've only just come in, I want you to watch the replay. We're going to upload this you'll see it on our groups, on our Facebook Lives. You're welcome to upload it or reach out to me. Robert, there are 3 people I've got to get you introduced to next week. Excellent. 3 people. And the 4th, we've already been in conversation, but we have to circle it back, and that's the 100 acre. And I get a little speechless when I get really excited. So that's why I'm not really saying very much, but the era and the time that we're in, it's, Robert, just as you said, to see your vision come to fruition and where we are, it's going to take a lot of people coming together to continue the movement. So the ambassadors that have just done what they've done for you, you need more of that. This word needs to get spread. People need to know. They need to know that options exist. They need to understand what your organization does, and it directly relates to real estate.
Excuse me one moment.
Yep.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going organically right now, and just kind of going with the flow, with following my dreams. And we met a lot of people over the years that tried to steal ideas and maybe pretend they were going to be partnerships, and it happens all the time in business. Yes. And I was really naive, and so I'm just doing it. And I meet people all the time, and I say, if you want to do it, do it. Like, do you have land? Do you have a company? We're helping different types of industrial clients. They had no idea this stuff was even possible. Can cut their bills in half. It takes us like no time to figure it out. We do on-site. Everyone should understand though, since everything's customized, you have to measure what they need on their property. That even goes with Wi-Fi. We go out on the property, we're able to outline all the boundaries of everything and say, this is the decimal point of what you need for your cooling system, for your heating system, for your lights. You can't just go and get one group to come in. We've had it happen with the hydro companies where they send 3 guys into the factory, look around and say, you need to close those doors to the refrigerators and you need to change those lights to LED. And really, that's your suggestion for this client who's spending $480,000 a month on their electricity bill?
Oh,
please. Your idea?
Well, yeah, makes me laugh. There's, because how much passion and belief I have, and again, I go back, Robert, I keep, the government were clients of mine for a decade, and I remember the day that I couldn't anymore, because it, is much going to change. Great that I had developed relations and everything, but at the end of the day, there's only so much, right? We get the corruption, there's only so much, but I'm glad I got that experience and what we're able to do in this era we are. And I'm a huge believer, and as I kind of go back, people need to know that these options exist. So the option of being able to having you come in to our office and maybe do a presentation to the broader realtors on the commercial because they have the clients. The option to be able to do that up in Kitchener. So Roy, that I'm aligned with up there, they own part of that market center, to be able to do that. So it's timing is quite interesting right now. But what I'm going to just share and just kind of close off, if you will. If I'm a little wordy, my apologies. I'm just too excited, and I think just to see kind of and hear where you are, and there's this where it is. Next week, Robert, I got a few people that I absolutely got to get you connected with. I love having you on. The next time, we're just what we may do, and kind of a suggestion is potentially whether it might be one of your clients or we can kind of bring it in, or maybe we have yourself and we might have someone that's already kind of made decision, and you guys can kind of start to talk about the phase that you're working on.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. So when we have clients that call us, we do corporate presentations. So there's more of a structure. This is more of a general conversation with you and your viewers, but that's exactly what we do. So we even have tours, and we take them on tours to come visit these existing sites. We got videos, thousands of pictures, booklets, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I've got Kim Wright, I've got to get you introduced to, who's got a few buildings, a property, cottages, she's got 3 companies, if you will. And then we have, and she's well connected with many other people that have land, etc. But it goes back to they don't know what they don't do. We have a client that we've talked about. I absolutely need to get you introduced to him. And we are, I've got 2 other people. So on that note, and for everybody that's watching, Michelle Carty, CC Realty show. This is Robert Laporte and Neutopia. We're going to have you back on again, Robert. But
excellent
stuff we'll be doing in the interim.
I should have our website so they know Neutopia is neutopia.ca, neutopia.ca. And it's like the tip of the iceberg. We used to tell people, we used to even have a fake website up to distract competitors. Now we have like the real website. People can see real pictures of us. But to get to the real corporate stuff, that's when we sit down, we have meetings, and we make it serious.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. All right.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me again, and my pleasure. Anytime, absolutely anytime.
Okay. Thanks, Robert.
All right.